You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News. Let's go back to Guy, Ben, and Frank.
Welcome back to the program of Inside the News. This is our Picking Up the Pieces segment. Frank Vernuccio, he's in the top left if you're watching us on the AUN TV network or on YouTube. Ben Brunson is in the bottom middle. My name is Guy Wehman. I'm on the top right. And we want to thank all of you for listening and being part of our radio audience into our 6th year. This is program number 301. And we're glad to be a part of your life each and every week. Ben, Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of the grand state of California. There's a chance he may be gone.
Well, the recall looks like it's going to happen in California. It requires 1.5 million verified signatures to get a recall on the ballot. And the organizers of the recall have gathered at least 2 million real signatures. A chunk of them will get tossed out because unlike when the GOP tries to verify elections, when it's a Democrat who's the target, there is a staunch effort to verify every single signature in California. Yep. Again, irony of ironies. But despite the best efforts of the state, I think this recall is going to happen, and it looks like it will be scheduled for the fall sometime. It could be a November election. There are already a couple of GOP candidates who've announced. The big question is whether I think rising GOP star Rick Grinnell, openly gay GOP star who was a great asset in the Trump administration, served as ambassador and as the DNI for a period of time, the director of national intelligence, whether he is going to run against Newsom. I think if he runs, there is a chance of unseating Gavin Newsom. But I'll be honest with you, in this election, I still, given the timing, if the election were held today, I think Newsom would be in a lot of trouble. But by November, if Newsom is smart, he will have allowed California to open up completely. Things will be back to quote unquote normal again, and he will probably maintain his seat. I don't know if re-election is the right word. He'll maintain his seat as governor unless the GOP can field a very strong candidate. And I think Rick Grinnell would be that candidate if he decides to run. But if Rick Grinnell doesn't run, honestly, given where I expect the economy to be in the fall in California, my expectation is that Newsom will maintain his job.
Frank, there are a number of different benchmarks that have to be met to get this recall election there. But then once that happens and once they are actually in the election process, it's a winner take all. So in other words, it's going to be the majority winner take all. There's not, these little benchmarks are then gone. Am I understanding that correct?
I believe so. And of course, the problem comes down to that famous loyalty that Democrats have, not to their candidate, but to the Democrat label. It's parts of New York State, New York City, for example. You could put a combination of Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse on the Democrat ticket, run them against a combination of George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, and people will vote for the Democrat label as opposed to the candidate himself. And I think Newsom's ultimate strength will be that he's a Democrat and his opponent will be a Republican.
I think that Gavin Newsom has a stronghold up in San Francisco with a lot of name recognition too, Ben.
Well, he has, of course, great name recognition throughout the state. He is the former mayor of San Francisco. That's where he made his political chops. And despite the fact that San Francisco is in terrible shape, it is one of the most mismanaged cities in America and has been, largely as a result of Gavin Newsom's poor management of San Francisco, which he's continued into the governor's mansion for the state. But you guys hit the nail on the head. The problem is when it comes down to it, a lot of Californians just can't vote Republican no matter what, no matter how bad their current governor is, no matter how bad the state situation is, no matter how desperate they are to get back to normalcy and open up and have a revived economy once again, a lot of Democrats, probably a majority, just can't vote Republican.
All right. We did not get to opening up in March Madness. We're going to talk about that because it begins this week in earnest. And we want to thank all of you for listening. That was Ben Brunson, the author of the Falstaff Enigma. Esther Sling, you find him at benbrunson.com, amazon.com. Frank Vernuccio, he's with the American Analysis of News and Media, usagovpolicy.com. The Minute Report for America, also great, interesting articles that he writes every week. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be back to put a bow on the program. We will be back.
Getting to the heart of the matter. Here's Guy Wehman, Ben Brunson, and Frank Vernuccio with more Inside the News.
Welcome back to our final segment of Inside the News all across the country. We want to thank you for listening. You can also catch us on YouTube and the AUN TV network. All right, Frank, March Madness and basketball, and it was gone last year. I mean, it was just basically gone. 1 year ago, shut down. And now, maybe not the fans are in the stands. I didn't mean to rhyme that, but at the same time, it is fun to see brackets back and teams back, and people get to start cheering again. And that's a good thing, Frank.
Sure, but I'm in New York and I'm a New York Yankee fan. So when I hear the crack of the bat and the pounding of the ball into the glove, that for me says spring, and that for me says things can get back to normal. Fans are going to be back in the stands this year.
Yep.
And most importantly, the New York Yankees will reclaim their ultimate correct position as world champions.
Well, there's optimism for you right there, because he could have gone with the Mets. You know what, Ben, though, Ed, I'm watching these games over the weekend and I'm just enjoying it. And there's college sports and high school sports. There's nothing like it. The pros have disappointed me more and more. I mean, I love football and everything, but there's something about college and high school sports that seems to be more true about what is happening, Ben.
Well, thankfully, although there was some encroachment, college sports for the most part kept politics out of their sports, their sporting events, for the most part over the past year. And we all have lived through quite the opposite when it comes to some of the professional leagues, the NBA being at the top of the list. So the greatest hypocrisy of all to me is the NBA talking about social injustice in America and kowtowing to China, a dictatorial state that literally runs concentration camps where millions of people are oppressed, and including death being imposed upon them involuntarily. So the hypocrisy there is breathtaking, and yet another example. But college sports has been very refreshing, and it's great to see March Madness come back. Although my favorite college basketball team, the Duke Blue Devils, seems to be out. COVID outbreak has caused what seems to be a premature end to their college basketball season.
All right. You have a little bit more time today, Frank, but what's your hot button topic?
Well, it is fascinating to see how a news story has morphed. In New York, Governor Cuomo, who is facing calls for his resignation, is facing those calls because of sexual allegations against him, that he acted inappropriately towards women. Seemingly forgotten, of course, is the fact that his policies caused the death of 15,000 senior citizens. But the Democrats in the state assembly don't like him being thrown out for that, because they too take a lot of money from the operators of nursing homes. The charges against Governor Cuomo are actually going right back towards them. They were part and parcel of that policy. So they want to get rid of Cuomo because they want to get rid of the senior death story, but they can't do it talking about nursing homes. So a lot of good Democrat female staffers have come out and talked about Governor Cuomo's sexual problems. It's a nice piece of hiding the actual reason they want to get rid of Cuomo, but a lot of these loyal Democrat women staffers are doing the right thing for their party in their minds by coming up with this so that the sexual allegations become the story and the nursing home scandal is forgotten.
And you, our listeners, this has got to infuriate you. Thousands and thousands of people died because of that nursing home policy. And yet they were not going to do anything about it until the sexual allegations come up. And then all of a sudden they're going to move against him. They don't care about the lives of these people who died, more about, and what was Frank was just talking about. Ben, you have a hot button topic. I kind of got a little sideways there. I'm sorry, go.
Yeah, perfect lead in, because I'm going to go through the statistics around this very issue. The death rate per 100,000, 3 states versus 3 states. California, Florida, Texas, different approaches, all had relatively the exact same death rate, average of 151 deaths per 100,000 over the past year from COVID. 3 other states, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts. Those 3 states all have the Cuomo-style policies towards the elderly and not segregating out COVID patients. The death rate average, very similar death rates, the average of those 3 states, 254 deaths per 100,000 versus 151 in California, Florida, and Texas, which all did it right, even though with different approaches. And that's a 68% increase in the death rates in New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts, all explainable by one thing: the policies proposed and led by Andrew Cuomo and aped by Governor Murphy in New Jersey and followed in Massachusetts as well, to not segregate out COVID patients among the elderly population, and very, very costly.
All right, we've got to get out of here. Good show today, Frank.
Great being with you all.
And Ben, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.
All right, until next week when we once again go inside the news, stay safe and strong.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.